This is my first time speaking at APS, and I'm looking forward to sharing some practical recommendations to drive global growth through Apple Search Ads. I will be talking about an automation framework that has been working really well for me and has helped me drive tangible and positive results. Before we dive into the presentation, I will quickly introduce myself. I'm Ritwik, and I've been doing mobile app marketing for the past 6 years. I started my career at Studio Mosaic. It's a mobile app marketing agency based in New Delhi, and I've worked there for slightly over 3 years. And then I came to the UK to do my master's in marketing from the University of Edinburgh. Edinburgh is an amazing place to be a student, and I had a lovely time there. And right after finishing my master's, I started working at Feature as an ASA strategist, and after Feature, I joined Trainline, where I'm currently leading their global Apple Search Ads and ASO initiatives. So what are we going to learn today? I'll firstly talk about why should we automate Apple Search Ads in the first place. And I'll touch upon an automation stack that will give you an overview of all the automation rules that we will be looking at. Then I will be spending most of my time actually taking you through those automation rules. And at the end, I'll touch upon the future of automations with AI. Why should we automate Apple Search Ads? Behind every marketing decision, there is an objective. And the same goes with Apple Search Ads automation rules. When it comes to automating my account, I have 4 key objectives. The first one is to scale acquisition. I want my automations to increase the number of users over time that I'm driving to the business. The second goal is to drive efficiency. I want automations to make my campaigns more efficient, so I'm spending less money on keywords, campaigns, creatives that do not convert well. Before I talk about the rest of the 2 objectives, I would like to ask some of you, are there any objectives in your mind based on which you create your automation rules? You can raise your hands if you have any other objective to drive. No? All right, no worries. The third objective is to raise red flags. Automation rules can do a really great job at raising red flags so that you are aware about any major performance shifts. And the final objective is to get support in account optimization. When you scale your campaigns globally, it can be very difficult to manage hundreds of campaigns, and automation rules can ease your job by enhancing the way you optimize your account. So this is the automation stack. Here you can see under each goal, I have listed some automation rules. And rather than discussing this slide, I'll go to the next slide so that we can spend most of the time actually dive deep into and discuss these automation rules in detail. Let's start with how you can scale acquisition using automations. So the first rule triggers whenever your campaign is limited by budget. Unlike Google UAC, where you get a very clear view of your campaigns being limited by budget, unfortunately, Apple Search Ads doesn't really tell you when your campaign hits its daily budget. And it's a very easy win if you increase your daily budget to scale your campaigns, because you're not necessarily paying more to acquire more users by increasing your budget, because your cost per acquisition doesn't go up when you increase your budget. So by creating a very simple automation rule where the condition goes like, if your previous day's spend is higher than 95% of your daily budget, you can set a trigger that sends you a notification, either Slack or email notification, and based on the notification, then you can decide whether or not it makes sense for you to increase your campaign budget. If you're running a probing campaign or a discovery campaign and you get notified about those campaigns hitting their daily budget, maybe you might not scale them because the efficiency of those campaigns are not great. However, if the same notification comes through for one of your core campaigns, then you might explore the opportunity of spending more on that campaign. And as you can see in this example, the red line you see here, that's the point when I got the notification that one of my campaigns was limited by budget. And after improving my budget strategy, I increased my daily budget. And after some time, I saw my downloads going up, and I was able to improve my downloads by 37% by simply increasing my campaign budget. And that's why I said it's a very easy win, and you shouldn't ignore this automation rule. And you can also see that the spending and download graph follows a very similar trend throughout. That means when I acquired new users, higher users, I was not necessarily paying more than what I was paying previously. Moving to the next slide, I'll now show you how you can scale your high-value, generic, and competitor keywords. I'm not sure how many of you have done this analysis, but a few months back, I was looking at my keyword performance, and I realized that in most of the markets, 85% of the volume is only driven by 10 or 15 keywords. That means you need to pay much more attention to optimize those high-value keywords. By building this automation rule, what you necessarily do is, first of all, by using your CMP, you can label your high-value keywords. So if you're getting your majority of performance through 10 keywords or 15 keywords, you can label them using your CMP. And after labeling them, you can create this condition where if your impression share on those keywords falls below 91%, and you're getting a cost per conversion that is under your target levels, and your cost per download is also under your target levels, then this rule will increase your bid on those keywords. This rule has helped me scale non-brand keywords really well, high-value non-brand keywords. And as you can see in the chart, after applying this rule, I have seen a steady increase in downloads. The yellow line is the downloads, and the blue line shows you my cost per tap. And I saw 51% improvement in my non-brand high-value keywords by implementing this rule. So I talked about how you can scale your... Sorry, do you have a question? Okay. So I talked about how you can scale your non-brand download, but let's look at how you can also scale your brand downloads. As your brand search popularity grows in different markets, as your app becomes more popular in App Store, it becomes very lucrative for other brands to steal your brand traffic, right? Therefore, you should have a mechanism in place so that you're defending your brand and you make sure that you're maximizing the impression share on your brand. Even though the incrementality of brand downloads is lower than your non-brand downloads, but the users that are searching for your brand are really high-intent users, and you wouldn't want to miss out on those users. So by creating this automation rule, if your impression share on your brand keyword is in the range of 0 to 90%, or to say if it's under 91%, then this rule will increase your brand bid. You can also set an upper limit here so that the cost doesn't go out of control. By implementing this rule, as you can see in the graph, the pink line is the impression share, and it was under 91%. And after applying this automation rule, within a few days, I was able to win back the entire impression share on my brand. And I would recommend you to build this automation rule individually for different brand campaigns, because in each market, you might be paying a different amount for to acquire brand users. Your CPT might be different from one market to the other. So by understanding your market dynamics, you can build different automation rules to defend your brand traffic. In the next rule, I'll show you how you can find opportunities to scale using probing campaigns. Like I said before, in many cases, majority of the volume on Apple Search Ads is only driven by a handful of keywords. So it's very important that over time, you're expanding your keyword coverage and getting downloads from more keywords so that you rely less on only a few keywords. The whole purpose of running discovery campaigns is that. But unfortunately, if you're running discovery campaigns, the search terms that you get, you find no conversion data for those search terms. That is why it's important to move your search terms to your probing campaigns. On a general basis, I've seen that discovery campaigns sometimes have thousands of search terms, and it can be really difficult to manually move those search terms as an exact match to your probing campaign. And this is an exercise that needs to be done on a regular basis. And if you don't do that, you might miss out on keywords that can actually drive conversions. So if you automate this process, all your search terms from your discovery campaigns will be added to your probing campaigns. And then when those keywords have been running in the probing campaign, then you can analyze if those keywords are actually driving any performance or not, and whether or not you should keep them running. So that was the first section. Moving forward, I'll talk about how you can drive efficiency using automations. In the first rule, I'll show you how you can drive efficiency through your brand campaigns on Apple Search Ads. Like I said, as you grow your brand presence in app stores, your brand becomes very lucrative to other apps, and other apps start bidding on your brand. In that process, what happens is not only you lose your impression share, in order to defend your impression share, you have to increase your bids. And by doing so, your overall cost per tap starts to go up. And because of that, your brand acquisition becomes really expensive. What you need to remember is that it's very expensive for other apps to acquire users from your brand traffic. I guess people who are running Apple Search Ads campaigns here, if you acquire users from any other established brand, your cost per acquisition must be really high. And the same goes when others are acquiring users from your brand. So what you need to do is, you need to first figure out the apps that are in the auction, whether those apps are even relevant for your business. Are those competitors relevant? If they are not, then they can definitely not afford to acquire users on your brand. And even if they are relevant, it must be very expensive for them to do so. So you should keep testing if you let other apps have your impression share, whether or not they'll be able to afford that traffic. By building this automation rule, what you can do is you can create a condition where if your impression share in the previous day is in the range of 91 to 100%, then this automation rule will decrease your keyword bid. So what happens is that over time, this automation rule will keep reducing your keyword bids on your brand until your impression share is maximized. And as you will slowly hand your traffic share to your competitors and they won't be able to afford it, then they will also start pulling back on your brand. And that's how the overall cost per tap on your brand will start to come down. After implementing this automation rule, I was able to reduce my cost per tap on brand keywords by 51%. And I'm not talking about a very small market. This is a test that I ran in one of our core markets, and that has helped us reduce lots of spending on brand, which is beneficial for the business because it's essentially when you're running a brand campaign, you are catering to the traffic that is already searching for your brand. So the incrementality of brand downloads is much lower than non-brand. Now I'll talk about an automation rule that will help you automatically pause probing keywords that are not converting. While you run discovery campaigns with the intent of driving those keywords to your probing campaign and then testing out new keywords, many times what happens is that lots of keywords that are added to your probing campaign are not relevant. And even if they are relevant, there is a probability that you won't be able to convert that traffic. Maybe your screenshots are not relevant. Maybe you don't have a very solid USP. There can be many reasons why you might not be able to convert that traffic. Therefore, you should have a system in place that can pause probing keywords if they are not converting. By having this rule where the condition goes like, if you have spent more than three times of your target cost per conversion, and you haven't gotten any conversions, or if you have achieved at least 100 downloads and you haven't gotten any conversions, or if your average CPA on that keyword is higher than your target average CPA, I've taken £6 as an example, Or if you get low TTR on that keyword, for instance, if the average is less than 2% and you have gotten at least 500 impressions, in that scenario, this automation rule will simply pause that keyword from your probing campaign. And that's how you can make sure that the keywords that you add to your probing campaigns are promptly paused if they don't drive any conversions, and that's how you can prevent wastage of budget. I would recommend you to apply this rule to all your probing campaigns, and you can also enable Slack notifications so that you get alerted whenever this rule pauses keywords from your probing campaigns. And I'm recommending you to do that because when you do so, you improve your commercial understanding of which keywords drive conversions and what kind of keywords don't. Now let's touch upon how automations can support the way you manage your campaigns and optimize your campaigns. So in the first rule, I'll show you how you can drive high-value keywords using probing campaigns. So in the last slide, I told you how probing campaigns can drive some keywords that are not delivering performance, but at the same time, you can also find keywords in your probing campaigns that drive conversions. So what you need to do is, the one thing that I really like about using CMPs is that you can really customize the way you get Slack alerts. So I created a Slack alert that goes like, if I got at least 2 conversions from a keyword and the cost per conversion in the probing campaign on that keyword is less than my target cost, then the CMP will trigger a notification on Slack. And when I get this notification on Slack, I also get a button that says Ads Manager. And if I click on that, I'm taken to a filtered view of all those keywords from all those different probing campaigns that drive conversion. So I don't have to manually go to a different probing campaign and see which keywords are driving conversions. I get a filtered view that basically improves my efficiency and the speed at which I can make use of the insights and then make a decision whether or not I should move these probing keywords to one of my core campaigns. Now, I'll talk about how you can find opportunities to scale your non-brand keywords. In one of my last slides, I talked about how you can scale your high-value non-brand keywords, but in this slide, I will cover the rest. You can create a condition where if keyword match type is generic or other brands, and your match is exact, and you have more than 5 search popularity on a keyword, and then if such keywords face less than 91% impression share, and your conversions on keywords is less than 10, that defines that the keywords that you are shortlisting are high value, and your cost per conversions on such keywords is lower than your target cost per conversions, that means there is scope to increase your bids on such keywords. You will get notified through a Slack notification. And like I said in the last slide, using Slack notifications, I can go to the Ads Manager that gives me a filtered view of all the non-brand keywords where there is scope to increase impression share, and the cost per conversion on those keywords is under my target cost levels. Therefore, I can afford to increase my bids on those keywords. And you can apply this to all your keywords in your campaigns. Now, let's look at how you can use automations to find non-converting keywords. When you run Apple search ads, you run thousands of keywords, but sometimes you tend to spend budget on some keywords, but they don't convert at all. I'm not just referring to probing campaigns. I'm also talking about other campaigns that you run. So if you're running certain campaigns and there are keywords that are not converting, then you should have a system in place so that you can promptly either reduce your bids on such keywords or pause those keywords. You can build this automation rule where there's this condition: if you have gotten 0 conversions in the past 30 days from a keyword and you have spent more than 3 times of your target cost per conversion, then you will get notified. By making use of this automation rule, I've been getting notifications using which I promptly pause or reduce bids and improve my campaign efficiency and spending. As you can see, the chart, the dotted line shows how much I was spending on non-converting keywords before and how much I was spending on non-converting keywords after making this change. And I was able to reduce my spending by 71% by enhancing the way I optimize my account using this automation rule. Now let's look at how you can spot inefficient keywords in your campaigns. In the last slide, I talked about there are keywords that don't convert well, but there are also keywords in your campaigns that do convert, but you can't sustain acquiring users from those keywords at a very high cost per acquisition levels. Therefore, by building this automation rule, where if your cost per conversion in the previous 7 days is more than your target cost per conversion, and you have spent at least £100 in the past 7 days, then you will get notified through Slack. And then what you need to do is you need to understand what is making your keywords less efficient. Did your competitors start bidding up on those keywords? In that case, does it make sense to increase your bids if that keyword is too important? Or is that keyword relevant enough? If you are seeing a keyword is not that relevant and it's very expensive to acquire users using that keyword, maybe it makes sense to pause that keyword. If you notice that your competitors are running better creatives, if they are, for example, running a CPP that has made the auction very expensive, and now it's very expensive for you to acquire users on that keyword because your competitor is running a discount promotion, then you need to understand whether or not it makes sense for you to counter that with a promotion. Or if that keyword is not relevant to your ad, you can also explore the option of building new CPPs to personalize the user journey. So while these keywords are converting but they're inefficient, you can think about different scenarios, and if there are ways to make it efficient, and if there is no way to make it efficient, you either reduce your bids or pause those keywords completely. And moving forward to the next rule that helps me a lot in account optimization. This seems like not so important, but it is apparently. And this rule helps you move all your exact match keywords as negative match to your discovery campaigns. It's considered to be a best practice to move all your exact match keyword as negative match to your discovery campaigns, and there is a reason behind that. The way Apple Search Ads works is like if you have two similar keywords in two campaigns and you're bidding slightly higher on the other campaign, then Apple Search Ads might move all your traffic from one campaign to the other campaign. At that can really skew your results, that can increase your cost of acquisition. And to prevent situations like that, you can build this mechanism where all your exact match keywords are added as negative match to your discovery campaigns, and then the same keywords that you have in your core campaigns don't pop up in your discovery campaigns. It's a mechanism to keep your account setup clean. And if you end up doing it manually, firstly, it will take lots of time. And secondly, you won't be able to keep up. And you might miss out on some keywords that are present in your exact match campaigns, but are not present in your discovery campaigns. And now let's move to the last section of today's presentation, where I'll talk about how you can leverage red flags and get notified if there are significant shifts in your performance. You can set up certain alerts on your campaigns that can help you get notified so that you can take prompt action to bring your performance back on track and do something about it. The first rule that I have here notifies you whenever there is a huge impression share drop on your important keywords. This is a rule that you can set up for your brand campaigns, because if your brand traffic is very important for you, you would want to make sure if others are taking your impression share, you get notified. And you can build the same rule for other non-brand keywords. With this rule, you can get notifications if other competitors suddenly capture a lot of your impression share. I have taken an example of 50% here. And if you look at the conditions, I'm not taking into consideration previous day's data because a lot of times CMPs are not able to process last day's data completely. Therefore, if you rely your automation rules on previous day's data, then you might end up making some false decisions. Therefore, if you compare your day before yesterday's data with data 3 days ago, and you see a huge drop in your impression share, then you will get notified that there are some apps that have captured your impression share. You should do something about it. And this is the example of the Slack notification that I usually get. And as you can see, here is a button that says Ads Manager. And if I click on that, I'm straight away taken to the keyword where there is a huge drop in the impression share. And by leveraging Slack notifications, I can quickly look at which competitors took my share, how relevant those competitors are. If they are less relevant, maybe it makes sense to not increase my bids, because if they are taking my brand impression share and they're not relevant, they won't be able to afford it. So I should keep my strategy as it is, and after a few days, my downloads will go up. Whereas if I'm seeing a very relevant app bidding on my brand, then I'll have to do something about it. I would also want to see if any competitor is running a promo custom product page that might drive users from my app to the other app. So these are all the questions that you should ask before making a decision when it comes to bid optimization. The next alert you can set up is to get notified whenever your campaign spending goes up drastically. We all work with tight budgets, and we want to make sure that if a campaign is overpacing, we take some actions to fix it. But for instance, if you don't look at your campaigns for a day or two, and suddenly your campaigns are not limited by budget and you end up spending like 50-40% more than your budget, then you will be in an ugly position, right? So to prevent situations like that, you can create this alert so that whenever there is a huge shift in your campaign spending, for example, if there is a spike of 50%, as I have defined in this rule, you will get notified. And the best part about setting Slack notifications is that you get this beautiful option of clicking on the CSV report button, because when you do that, you download a CSV file that gives you an analysis of campaign spend trend, and then you can analyze which campaigns are spending more, how much did they spend, and do you need to fix their daily spend rate. The other rule that you can set up is to get notified whenever there is a huge drop in your conversion rate. I believe all of you who are running Apple Search ads, you might be experimenting a lot with custom product pages. We built custom product pages with the intent of improving the conversion rate, but the conversion rate doesn't improve every time. There are many times when you apply a CPP with the hope that this is going to drive the conversion rate, but what happens is completely opposite. You end up seeing a decrease in your conversion rate. So if you're managing 10s, 20s of CPPs on a regular basis, and if you're not keeping track of all the CPPs that you're applying over time, and there is a sudden drop in your conversion rate, and you see you're losing impression share on your core keywords and your downloads are going down, you might not pay attention to what led to that change. You might think that auction dynamics are changing, and as a response, accidentally you might end up increasing your bids. Whereas the actual problem was you implemented a CPP that led to a drop in your conversion rate. Therefore, there should be automation in place that can notify you whenever your conversion rate drops. So if you're running a CPP and that doesn't improve your conversion rate, rather reduce it further, you will get a notification, your conversion rate has dropped, and then you can correlate, oh, did I apply a CPP in this market? And if I did, and I got this notification, most likely this is driven by a CPP change. And rather than increasing my bids to regain my impression share on those keywords, I would simply disable my CPP and go back to the creative that I was running before. So that's a practical use case of this automation rule. And this is the last slide, and I wanted to touch upon the future of automations with AI. So as we know, machine learning and artificial intelligence are gaining a lot more popularity these years. And CMPs are figuring out new ways to leverage them both to enhance the way automations work. In past years, automations have been really rule driven and quite static in nature. But that is changing now. With the help of AI powered automations, now CMPs are coming up with solutions where automations are much more dynamic. They can analyze your past performance and then predict what kind of change will help you drive results quicker. For instance, if you're building an automation rule, you have to define whether the change should be 5% or 10% or 20%. But what if making a change of 15% straight away would be more effective? That's where dynamic automation rules come into place that leverage AI. But there are pros and cons of using these new strategies. I'll start with pros first. Like I said, these changes that are made by these AI-powered automations are more dynamic. They can learn from your past trends and then make decision by what extent the bits should go up or go down. Secondly, if you're new to Apple Search Ads, if you have less context about your account history, or you don't feel comfortable thinking about what kind of automation rules you need to make, you can leverage these new automation rules where you simply have to put your target CPAs and the rest of the job is done by the automation rule itself. So there is less thinking required. Thirdly, these rules can achieve your target CPAs quicker because they know the past trends and they know what kind of bit changes can achieve your CPA goals quicker. And lastly, this shift will help you lower your reliance on rule-based automations where you have to think what extent of change automations should make. But there are some downsides. Firstly, this is still very new and many marketers haven't been using these for a long time. So if you're new to this automation strategy, you will have to work with your account manager. You'll have to constantly align with them so that you are applying these new strategies in the best way possible. And secondly, I believe that the new strategies are still not perfect. For instance, I'll give you an example. I was advertising on one of my core keywords, and I applied the new AI-powered bidding strategy. And there was this condition where I had already exhausted my impression share on that keyword. But the automation rule kept on increasing its bids for days and days, and there was no logic behind it. So when you are applying these new AI-powered automation rules, you should always challenge the logic behind their changes. You should think about what change they made and why this change was made. If it makes sense, that's good. If it doesn't, you should raise it with your account manager because probably there might be some inconsistencies with the logic, or you can help your account manager to give some product feedback that they can utilize to make AI-powered automations better. The next downside is not all campaigns might be able to leverage the new AI-powered automations, and that's mainly because these new automation rules leverage past campaign performance. So if you're starting a new campaign where you don't have any past data, these rules might not be able to act like they would act if they are applied to a campaign that has been running for a very long time. So you shouldn't test these strategies on a newly launched campaign and rather try them out on campaigns that have been running for some time. And the last thing is, when you apply AI-powered automations, sometimes you might hear from your account manager to not make manual changes because that might disrupt the learning phase of the bid strategy. And when that happens, you might feel like you have less control over your campaigns. Because if you want to make a change and you are getting some resistance from your account manager that hold off for 5 days, a week, don't make any change, things will get better. But you know, making a change would make things better, but you are not able to do that, you will feel a bit irritated and you might not be able to have a lot of control on your campaigns. So that's also another consideration that you should have. So I wouldn't recommend testing out the new automations on your most important campaigns in the first go. Try them on not so important campaigns first. And if you see they're working well for you, then think about applying them to the more important campaigns. So, what's the way ahead? Keep testing. CMPs are working really hard to make this thing work, and they are trying to change the way automations work. So, there are new features coming in offered by CMPs. So, if you keep testing, you can leverage new opportunities. I would still recommend you to do a manual analysis to assess the logic behind these rules. And if things don't make sense, raise it with your account manager, and always make sure that the new rules are aligning with your goals. If you're setting a target CPA level, for example, if you're setting a target of $20, then you should check if these automation rules are helping you achieve $20 CPA, and how long is it taking to do that, because that's the whole purpose of setting them up. So these are some considerations that you can think of before implementing AI-powered automations to your Apple Search Ads campaigns. And that's the end of the presentation. If you have any questions, I welcome your questions.